Alright, so big day for practice, experience, growth. We are going to learn a little bit newer things today. Okay, they're like theorems. There's like 3 or 4 different types of things and pieces that we're going to learn today. But before I start, I want to work these out in their entirety at the speed that you're probably most likely going to be expected to do from test day. Okay? Those of you who did not do your quiz number 1 from this unit, and you were absent last class, I am drafting you today just to make sure that you understand during Eagle time to make that up. Also, your homework assignments. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. A lot of you stepped it up big time. A lot of you have been doing homework assignments. The ones that were the first semester habitual as far as not doing homework assignments or blowing it off, that's like gone. Okay, there's very, very few people who are doing it. And those of you who are doing it late, at least that you are doing it, please make sure that you need it for the grade, a max of a 70, but mostly for the experience, okay? So just because you can't turn it in time, please make sure. And yes, continue to email me. A lot of you have emailed me. Here's the thing. If you email me saying that you're needing an extension, you know I don't mind granting you that extension. Just make sure that you do it within the 4-hour window prior to that 4-hour window before it's due. Here's the other part. It's your responsibility to tell me, Mr. Gomez, you didn't put this in the grade book correctly, okay? I did end up doing this. I asked you for the extension. You did grant it. Can you please change that 70 to 100, okay? Just make sure that you're very cognizant on that. And last but not least, your project. I will be recording that during 6th period today, okay? So when I record your project in its entirety of basically what it all entails, what you're going to do, I will also assign numbers to you, most likely through Google Classroom. So I'll put it on Google Classroom and you'll see a bunch of numbers. You'll see your name, the class period, and then you'll see your dimensions that you'll get. Okay, so look for that. Most likely that'll go out tonight. Alright, so let's go to get to it. We're going to do these, again, like I said, fairly quickly. And this is just a warm-up, aka a review of the skills that you know so far. I look at the first thing and I see a difference of cubes, because I can cube root each piece. That's the identifiable thing that tells me this is a difference of cubes. So a difference of cubes with SOAP tells me the same, opposite, always positive. Okay, so the cube root of the first term is 2x, the cube root of the last term is 3. So I'll square this to get 4x squared, I'll square this to get 9, and then I just multiply these to get 6x. And these are my factors thus far, but I'm still trying to solve for the zeros. Okay, so set each one equal to 0 and solve. You could, if you wanted to, break this up even more. So 2x and 2x will give me that 4x squared. 3 and 3 will give me this 9. And if I have a positive 6 and a positive 6, you see, I'm not going to get that 6 right there. I'm at 12 right now. Okay, so because of that, you could do the quadratic formula to solve for that one out. Did anyone do anything different other than the quadratic formula? No? Okay, yeah. So setting the first one equal to 0, you'd have x is 3/2. And then doing the quadratic formula from here, you could say negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so you have this 36 times 4, so 4, 2, 12, 144. 144 minus the 36, so it'd be 14 minus 6, is going to be 8. And then the 13 minus the 3 will be 108. So this right here on the inside is going to be a negative because it's that 36 minus the 144. So you'll have negative 6 plus or minus, come on computer, the negative 108 will be inside, and it'll be all over 8. Okay, and then yeah, you could start breaking up and simplifying that thing out. And here to like 2 and 54, 2 and 27, and then 3 and 9, or 3 and 3. So basically all that becomes 2, 2, 3, 3, 3 with a this would come out as 2, this would come out as 3, so that you have a 6i on the outside and the root 3 still left on the inside. So negative 6 plus or minus 6i root 3 all over 8 we know is the same as breaking it up into two fractions of common denominators, so that this becomes a negative 3/4 plus or minus this 3i root 3 over 4. So those are your other two zeros. Okay? Keep track. As far as points go, please keep track as far as if you got all three of them. Okay? So we'll say 10 points for each zero that you found. Okay, if you're able to find all three, you're at 30 right now. In your notes, if you want to do a problem that you weren't able to do during the warm-up, you're more than welcome to. Just please don't give yourself points is all I ask. Okay, so over here on number 4, I have 4 terms. I can't GCF anything out. I'm going to try to do factor by grouping. Okay, so I'll pull the GCF of y squared, y minus 2 is left. I'll pull out a 4, and y minus 2 is left. Remember, what's in parentheses is one of your factors, and what's outside of parentheses is the other factor. So this one is y is equal to 2, and we have to solve for what these are over here. Okay? So there is such a thing of difference of squares, but there's not such a thing of sum of squares. So there's 2 ways that you can do this. You can set it equal to 0, and then solve it out and see that you're going to get a plus or minus square root of negative 4. Which would become, the 4 comes out as a 2, the negative 1 comes out as an I, and you're left with this. Okay? And you can write them out, or you can write them together as far as plus or minus I. Okay? Some people, in last Friday, on A Day, they said, Mr. Gomez, can we look at a sum of squares? And I say yes to this, okay? And you can do this too. It was cool that they identified this. Can we look at a sum of squares and still pretend like it's a difference of squares to start off? Yeah, you can. And when you see that this is a positive, instead of 2 and 2, it's going to be 2i and 2i. Okay? So that whenever you solve for it, this one's going to be the negative one, and this one is going to be the positive one. Okay, so you can still treat it like a difference of squares as far as the setup goes, the plus and minus here. Just make sure that when you're looking at this and it's a positive, it's doing this up here. So it'll be 2i and 2i. You still take the square root, but you have to account for that negative. Okay? Alright, so that's that one. Let's move on to number 2 and 5. So 2, always GCF if you can first. I see a 2 that I can pull out, and now I see a sum of cubes. So 2, 3, same, opposite, always positive. Okay? The 2 is still out here. Cube root the x, cube root the 27, and then it's x squared and 9, and then multiply those to get 3x. Okay? And right here I see that x is negative 3. There's nothing here. It's not 0 because there's not an x. If there was an x here, then there would be 0 and negative 3. But because there's no x there with that GCF coefficient, you don't have to account for it as far as solving for zeros. Alright, so over here from practice, x will give me x squared, and 3 and 3 will either give me 6 or 0. I need a negative 3. I could have tried 9 and 1, which would give me 10 or 8. I need a negative 3. So best thing to do in that case is probably go into quadratic formula. So negative b, so negative 3 will become a positive 3. And then it'll be plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. So b squared is in parentheses minus 4, 1, 9. So it's 9 minus 36. So 16, 7, 27, negative 27. And if I make a mistake and you catch it, I will give your team 100 points. all over 2a. Okay, so the negative 27 is the same as that, which a pair can come out as a 3. The I comes out, or negative 1 comes out as an I. So you have 3I root 3 over 2 and 3/2 plus or minus. So that would be the other two zeros. Okay, and yes, good work would show that it's set and it equal to 0 at all times. Cool? All right, number 5. Number 5, set everything equal to 0 first, and then see if you could GCF. Well, they all have a 3, okay? So 3x to the 4th minus 7x squared plus 6. X to the 4th, you can, as we learned last class, do some kind of substitution like this, where you change this to a squared minus 7a plus 6. I don't like to do that myself. I just like to go straight to the factors. And I know x squared and x squared would give me x to the 4th. And then 6. Thinking of 1 and 6 or 2 and 3, I'm going to use 1 and 6 because there's a 7 that I need. So it would be both minus to make the signs happen. And now we have a difference of squares on both of those. Okay? So the first one is going to be a plus minus xx, and it's the square root of 6. Okay? The other one is going to be a plus minus, and then it's going to be the square root of 1. So that my ultimate answer will be x's. The first one is the negative root 6. We're going to look at some of this today too. It's called the with irrational numbers, they're called conjugate pairs, conjugate zeros. So this one is going to be a negative root 6, then a positive root 6, then a negative 1, and then a positive 1. Which, yes, if you wanted to do it just like this, you could get all of your answers like that as well. Okay, 2 more, and then we'll move on to the new stuff. But I do definitely want you to see basically the speed that you should be at by now, and the different ways that you can factor all of these. Okay, so I see x squared to give me that x to the 4th. Concentrating on this, I see 4 and 1. Both will be minus to get the signs and that b value to occur. And I see a difference of squares. From here, you can factor it out if you wanted to. Okay, so factoring out, it would be x plus 2, x minus 2, x plus 1, x minus 1. If the question says factor fully, completely, you do this. But you could do a little shortcut by just remembering to set each of those equal to 0 and not forgetting that you have a plus or minus answer whenever you do it this specific way. So you'd get x is equal to plus or minus 2, comma, plus or minus 1. Because all you were looking for were the zeros. Efficiency and speed, okay? And then the last one, we have x to the 5th minus x cubed plus 12x, set it equal to 0 first. Then GCF, so pull out that x, we got x to the 4th minus x squared plus 12. And then again, you see this x to the 4th like I've done before. I do x squared and x squared. And then I'm going to concentrate on factors of 12. So it could be 1, 12. It could be 2, 6. It could be 3 and 4. This gives me a 7 or a 1, and I need that 1 right there.
Wouldn't that 12x be a negative as well because you pulled it over from the other side?
Oh, I see what you're saying. So whenever I set it equal to 0, nice job, Aiden. I will give your team 100.
Up top as well. What about that line?
Yeah, so whenever he's saying whenever I move this 12 from the right side over, nice catch. That's team 2. That should have been a negative, okay? So I'll get your all points here in just a bit. So the 12 and 4, so it'd be 4 and 3, negative and positive. It makes everything else happen. Okay? And again, setting this equal to 0, you could break it up into difference of squares, the plus and the minus version. And then, like I said, this x squared plus 3 business, if you wanted to, starting today, treating it like a difference of squares, and just remembering that you're going to do that plus or minus version of what you have, okay? So you take the square root of 3, which would be this and that, but you would have to account for that negative, which you would have an I in front, okay? So if you listed them out, it would be in order 0, negative 2, 2, a negative I root 3, and a positive I root 3. We're going to look at more of this stuff today and finish it all off with what we're learning today. Okay? So there was a lot of them on this. I hope you were keeping track as far as the score goes. Any questions before I move on to the new stuff? Okay, so let me go ahead and get those points from you real quick so we can move on. Those are the answers. Alright, so the new stuff, guys. Actually, I'm going to take this on another one.